So is the future looking pretty rosy for all of our woodland creatures? Well, not exactly. There's one, in fact, that's in real trouble. It faces a daily onslaught, the loss of its home, the theft of its food, even biological warfare, all wrought upon it by a most unwelcome invader. But its story is fascinating, because it tells us a lot about how the changing face of Britain's woodland is influencing our woodland wildlife. The red squirrel. I know. Come here. Oh. How about this for a close encounter with a squirrel? This is a little orphaned red that was picked up, dehydrated and covered in flies on a roadside. Oh, it's been nurtured back into what is very clearly rude health here. Nibbling my nose. It's like having a big, red, fluffy-tailed flea on you. His agility is breathtaking. Long claws and double-jointed ankles are great for climbing trees. His tail helps him balance, so he can reach the end of the slenderest branch. Outside of Scotland and a few scattered refuges, you're unlikely to see one nowadays. But these fabulous little creatures have a British pedigree that goes way back. Red squirrels have been in British woodlands as long as they've existed. 1,000 years ago, they were plentiful and valued by humans for their fur, amongst the reddest squirrel fur in Europe. Their coats were prized, even by the greatest in the land. But as human demand for timber grew, for fuel and shipbuilding, woodlands began to disappear, and red squirrels with them. The Victorians made an attempt at replanting the forest, but then disaster struck. Before those red squirrels could properly recover, they were to get on the wrong end of a new fashion for Victorian humans, and that was introducing non-native species. In 1876, one Mr. Brocklehurst deliberately released 2 pairs of American grey squirrels at Henbury Park in Cheshire. No one expected the cataclysm that followed. Across England, Wales and Ireland, the Reds were in retreat. You see this? This wizened old edifice is no less than Hadrian's Wall, one of the great symbols of a north-south divide here in the UK. And perhaps today there's a biological parallel here. Take a look at this. Stretching all the way from here, right the way south to the English Channel, is now the land of the Greys. They've completely occupied it. Look round here. You see this stretch of forest? Stretching from here right the way across here. Well, that's Kielder Forest. This is Northumberland, and that's the last great refuge of the English red squirrel. But have you ever wondered why the British redcoats rolled over and capitulated quite so easily in the face of such a light American invasion force? So let's start with those greys. Why do they make such bad company for the reds? Well, greys have stronger stomachs. They can eat bark and acorns even before they're ripe, so depriving the reds of food. Now get this, because this is truly amazing. There's now some evidence that suggests that grey squirrels actually think yes, think differently to the reds, and that this might give them a critical advantage when it comes to surviving the winter. It's as though grey squirrels have the minds of criminals. Red squirrels, unlucky enough to find themselves in a forest with greys, should watch their cache. In the worst hit areas, up to 2/3 of the reds' food caches are raided by the greys, leaving little for the winter. Greys are highly skilled thieves, stealing from each other and the reds. They're suspicious of others when they're hiding their nuts. But their cunning doesn't stop there. To try and disguise the location of their buried treasure, they deliberately dig lots of holes but only put nuts into a few. And if they notice another squirrel watching, they dig even more of these false holes. They also bury their nuts under shrubbery or in mud, where they're harder for others to find. Sadly, they're not only cleverer. I've got to tell you, when it comes to this typical UK deciduous woodland, they're an ecologically more robust animal. So if there was ever going to be a successful invader, it was the grey squirrel. But there's one more thing that makes them absolutely disastrous when it comes to the reds. They carry a virus, the squirrel parapox virus. Now, the greys are largely resistant to it, but when they come into contact with the reds, it wipes them out. So it's easy to see why some have written off the red squirrel. But is there anything at all in their favour? Well, yes, there is. Pine forests. Over 70% of British red squirrels now live in Scotland, either in ancient Caledonian pine forests or plantations such as Sitka spruce. So why in these woodlands are the reds more successful than the greys? It comes down to two reasons. One of them is this, the Sitka spruce cone, and the other is the animal's need to optimally forage. What does that mean? Well, it means that when it goes looking for food, it's got to get enough energy back from that food to warrant all of that it expends finding it, handling it and eating it. Take a look at this. This is a red squirrel's feeding platform. They've collected these cones from up in the trees here. They've carried them all the way down at a cost, and then they've sat down here and they have chewed off all of the bracts here to get at the seeds inside. And I've got to tell you that the seeds are very small, so the return for their investment is equally small. Now, red squirrels can get enough to sustain a small population here in the forest. But when the greys come in and they try eating these things, they simply can't get enough energy out of the seeds in these cones to survive here. So for the moment at least, this is Red Squirrelville. So, with any luck, the reds will hang on here for a few more years. But they have something else on their side. Humans. Some are so passionate about saving the native red squirrel that they'll do anything to get rid of the greys. I'm off to the front line in Northumberland.
Got nothing against the grey squirrels personally, it's just in the wrong place and in the wrong time.
But you like the reds?
Yeah, I love them. They're beautiful, mystical little things if you ever have a chance to see them.
I'm joining Paul Parker on his daily trap check.
Here's nuts in.
His traps are designed to catch grey squirrels humanely, and hazelnuts are the bait of choice.
Nothing in this one either.
70 as well, isn't it?
Nothing here neither.
Nothing. Paul's organisation has come up with a way of recouping some of his cost, One that's not going to be everyone's cup of tea.
Right, we'll get on my way then.
I'm not sure that it's going to be my cup of tea either. Where are we off to now then?
We're off to a place I know and get something nice to eat.
It's not a greasy calf or anything, is it? Not?
No, you'll be quite surprised when you get there, I think.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What are you going to have then?
I'm going to have my favourite, squirrel pie.
I think I might just have a salad and a few nuts, if that's all right.
That's fine.
Look at that.
What's it like then?
It's absolutely beautiful.
Oh, come on.
Have a try this. This is that popular to go in the top restaurants in London. You like to have a try?
No. No. I can't eat the cast. All right. Well, aside from the meat, you know, how effective is the project been? I mean, how many squirrels, not to put too fine a point in it, have you killed to date?
To date, we're up to 25,171.
25,171 squirrels?
Yeah.
Has it made any difference? That's the. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the key question. I mean, in terms of the reds.
Just this morning, when I was coming to check them here, as one was running through the woods and she stopped listening and says, oh, I've seen a red. And I've never seen a one, and I've been running through here for years and years. And she was so excited. And there's a family of reds breeding.
So, basically, there were greys.
Yeah.
They've been eradicated.
Yeah.
And the reds have definitely come back.
Come back and they start breeding. That's the difference to me, you know, if people stop and say the reds are coming back. There's hope. I mean, to be quite honest, this problem is a man-made problem. We made this problem. And I think it's up to us to resolve it. Otherwise, if we don't do anything this time, we're going to lose the reds. And that's what I honestly feel.
And on that note, I'm going to let you do your bit with your dish. Your squirrel's getting cold. I never thought I heard myself say that. Whatever you think of Paul's militancy and his irrepressible desire to eradicate grey squirrels, I'm sure that not many of you are surprised, because when it comes to these animals, there are few fence-sitters. People either love them or they loathe them. And perhaps, pragmatically, there's a good method afoot here, because he's kind of keeping a no-man's land between the bulk of the population of greys down there in the south and what remains of the reds over there to the north. It is true that as far as the red squirrels are concerned, Britain simply isn't the place that it used to be. But thanks to their small size, these magical animals have every chance of clinging on in the UK's northern pine forests, especially as the human population value them so much. You know, it's pretty amazing that there are so many woodland animals still here, given the massive reduction in the amount of habitat that they've got. It's worth remembering that our local woods, hedgerows and even gardens are all potential homes for them.